Welcome to the Box Score Sports Podcast.
Last team. Let's talk about the Utah Jazz. They finished 17 and 65. They were the worst team in the NBA this season, and that rewarded them with the fifth pick. That was their award for being the worst team. I know how that feels, Utah fans, being a Piston fan. Just saying, the Victor Wembanyama draft. Just go look it up. Let's get into their season, their grade. What did you give them, Clint?
So I'm just going to give them a C plus because I do like their coaching. I do like their front office. Outside of that, disappointing. I mean, getting fifth is the disappointment part. The rest they kind of did. I knocked them a little bit too because marketing didn't look as good.
Yeah.
And, you know, hopefully it's a blip for their sake because he still has 4 years left on this deal. And they didn't move him before the season that just passed, before last season. And sometimes you take that chance. Maybe he still has a value, and we'll get into what they possibly could do. But that's the part that worried me a little is he didn't look as good, and he's kind of their token. Let's get some more assets for said player.
Yeah, I would let's see, I agree with you is it was marketing was disappointing. I gave him a D plus. Because again, you can't have this type of season and not end up with the number one pick is just devastating to your organization and the fan base. But not just the number one pick. You didn't get a top three pick, which is even worse. But I did think John Collins kind of reestablished sort of his value, and he's being paid I think 21 million or whatever on a 1 year deal. He has 1 year deal left, but he had a really good season. He shot 52% from the field, almost 40% from three. He had 19 and 8. So it's almost like he like reestablished his potential within the league of like being a solid option at the four. I think that's big for them because they can move him and get assets, and he could be part of a trade somewhere if they want to do that, or they can keep him. I think Hendricks getting injured at the beginning of the season was a big bummer because that was one of the building blocks they were hoping to let develop this year that ended up not being able to. But overall, I'm with you. It's a lot of a good coaching staff. They have some pieces, but none of the young players pop the way you wish. Some of them were injured. Keontae George didn't like have a great big outbreak season either. And then Laurie took a little bit of a step back. And then them not getting the draft pick was huge too. Them not getting a top three pick.
Yeah, for sure. John Collins, it seems like he took him a while, figured into more of the stretch four,
Yeah.
kind of know your role, and took him a little bit. But if you remember John Collins from Atlanta early on,
Yeah.
dude was a crazy athlete. And again, sometimes it takes time to understand after a couple injuries. Hey, this is what works best. He has a player option for next year, so either he picks it up or maybe they again extend him at a lower number and use that to move him. But yeah, the rest of the team is just okay.
Okay. Yeah. So he has a potential to opt out of the player option this year.
Yeah,
Okay.
but
Yeah.
I don't. It's 26.5 million dollars. I don't know that he gets, especially it's a bad free agent class. Like unless he thinks the Nets are excited to pay him more than 25 million.
Yeah, the Nets could bring in Collins and Kaminga and they could really build something. Okay. Uh let's look at their offseason outlook for the Jazz. They ended up with the fifth pick, which they like I mentioned earlier in their mock has Jeremiah Fears, the point guard out of Oklahoma going there. They have, like you mentioned, the Collins player option. They have other tradable contracts, including Jordan Clarkson and Sexton. They have two first round picks this year. They have nine first round picks and seven second round picks in the future. So they have a lot to work with and in that regard. So where do the Jazz go from here this offseason?
Yeah, this is where it's hard between you know Hardy's a good coach. Like, how long do you tell? And they extended him. So how long do you tell your good coach we just gotta suck? And how long does Danny Ainge want to keep being like, you know what? Let's just suck because it hasn't reaped a top pick. So do you just keep marketing and be like, all right, marketing Collins, Sexton, Clarkson, let's use some of these picks, and we could certainly bring in players that someone needs to dump a contract in, like a Drew Holiday. Not that they would send him to the Jazz, but there's a connection between Boston and Utah here. Or are we going to move on from Markin and try to take a haul from that, and again hope that you catch lightning in a bottle and get one or two next year?
Yeah, it's really the choice they have. Like Markkanen's the big choice, right? Like they got to figure out what they want to do with him. But could they talk themselves into like I don't know. They're in a weird spot, but I do have more hope for them than some of these other teams that we talked about, just because of the building blocks, the front office, and the head coach. So I'm not as down as on their offseason as other of these other teams. But yeah, I think marketing is the big question, and what do you want to do with these expiring contracts, right? Do you want to send them to veteran teams who are looking for a little bit of sparks, like Clarkson and Sexton, like off the bench. They want a spark off the bench. Let's send them, this way or whatever, um, and get assets for them, like more picks. Is that the way you want to build, or is it time to like try to? Okay, we got a bunch of picks already. We're not winning this lottery game. Why don't we just reverse it and use all the assets we have and try to bring somebody in? That would be the other option. I don't know.
Yeah, I, it, and it's tough to know with the Jazz, because you're right. Like, their infrastructure is there, and even with the team and some of the disappointments we talked about, for the first half of the year when they were kind of like quote trying,
Hmm.
they're a respectable team. They're not like, hey, this team is going to win 15 games even if they're trying. Um, so I think they can fall back on, we have a pretty high floor if we let Hardy coach. If we don't have injuries, but again, they're in the West, so it's it's hey, we could be respectable, but how good can we get right now, seeing what you see in the West?
Correct. Yeah, that's the hard part. Like, but like with the lottery, it's just so hard because with the lottery, it's like, well, we've seen two teams jump from basically eight down all the way to the top three picks. It's one of the top three picks. So yeah, I don't feel like I get why they tank because you want the best odds at the number one pick, but man, it's getting rough for some of these teams, including Utah. You thought Cooper Flag would be the perfect Utah Jazz, but whatever.
What better for Utah than a white dude?
Yeah, that's exactly it. You're a long shot for them?
I think they're going to trade Markkinen, and I feel like if you're going to do it, um, if Giannis isn't moved, I think there'll be some desperate teams in the West that they might be able to take a little bit of advantage of. So I just head down, and I don't even know if they can technically make it work, but they end up with Austin Reeves,
Mm.
marketing to the Lakers. Um, and he's not, your quote, quote, center that they might need. But I was just thinking of a team, a Western team, maybe even um, the Rockets that are just, that if Giannis is not traded, I think there'll be some West teams that are desperate um, to get a player, especially one that can shoot. Some of these teams need shooting. Um, but I'm going to shoot out. They're going to Austin Reeves is going to end up there. They're going to get their white guy anyhow.
Yeah, I that's an interesting one. I thought so they have a couple well, we mentioned 1 year contracts. I thought a long shot to move up to one I'm sorry, not one, but two or three in the draft. Could they talk the 76ers like we'll trade market him for Paul George if we can move up to the number 3 spot? And then, Paul George has 3 years left on his contract, but Markkanen's younger and might be better fit for the 76ers in their mind. Could that be a trade that they come up with? And then you would just again you would be able to add like AC Bailey or Harper or whoever, right? So you would add at least a better prospect. But I think the East teams will. It's funny because I think the East teams with Boston being injured will actually be thinking to themselves, "Hey, if we can get this dude, maybe we can make a run for depending on the top like 8 like teams or whatever." So I don't know. It is another. It's a long shot, but moving up in the draft, I had to 2 or 3, using Marketing as that kind of key piece.
Yeah, that would be, for the Sixers, he's not a bad fit there. Again, you need a lot of health things, and for the Sixers, you might do it because if you trade Paul George, you're probably in line to at least make it to the finals. So that's a good one. I think that's the type. If the Sixers are going to move off of the third pick, that's what it's going to take. A good player and being able to maybe keep a pick or move farther back.
Yeah, and then the only thing I could think of for the Spurs is if you got Fox and Castle, and you're like, we got Victor, who would be a good kind of bigger guy to put next to him that could shoot, space the floor, and be marketing. But I think they would have to give up their 5th pick to move up to 2 because it sounds like the Spurs are really into Harper. So we'll see. But long shots. That's why they're long shots. Anything else on the Jazz?
I don't think so.
Okay, man. Well, that's all we got for today. Thanks so much for watching this clip of the Box Score Sports Podcast. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you haven't yet, please subscribe to our channel. Follow us on Instagram and Twitter or X. And we'll talk to you guys real soon. See ya.